for more on this, let's turn to Major Garrett and Catherine Watson, who join us now. Major is CBS News chief Washington correspondent, and Catherine is CBSNews.com and White House and politics reporter. Okay, a lot on your titles there. Katie, I want to start with you because you were actually at this rally that Trump had in Waco, Texas, the first of his official, I should say, of his presidential campaign this time around. He played this video with January 6th rioters who have been jailed kind of against the national anthem. You were there on the ground. This stood out to you. What was the reaction like from the crowd there?
Sure. Well, Caitlin, supporters at the former president's rally were just kind of listening, watching in rapt attention as this video played, as you said, to the national anthem. Part of the video had actually a part of the assault on the Capitol from January 6th to the words, "the bombs bursting in air." And while the crowd was mostly silent while watching that, it was really silent, certainly when the Capitol assault was playing. They did cheer when President Trump and the American flag showed up. But really, people were watching with a lot of attention and cheered at the very end.
Major, I'm curious what you think of that dynamic because you have literally written a book on election denialism. Yep. Republicans on Capitol Hill have argued that they want to move on from January 6th. We had a midterm election in which Republicans who championed these false election claims lost. Yep. What do you make of the former president launching his presidential campaign, his third, with this kind of video?
So the video and the crowd's reaction to it is no longer about election denialism or rejectionism. It is about the embodiment of an idea and a reformulation of what American patriotism actually means. Trump identifies himself as a true patriot, and anyone who disagrees with him is a questionable patriot, even in the Republican Party. So it's a redefinition of patriotism. And what he wants to say is that if you came to the Capitol to delay the peaceful transfer of power in support of him, and only him, you are a patriot. And if you didn't, you might not be. And the crowd's willingness to sort of buy into that is part and parcel of the core of the Trump movement. The Trump defines patriotism. Trump defines what it means to be a loyal American. And anyone outside of that confine is under scrutiny and possibly worse.
I mean, to that point, Katie, you also heard the former president, express these grievances about this investigation in Manhattan. And he essentially said, what they're doing to me, they're actually doing to you. I'm curious. I know you talked to a lot of folks on the ground there. Did you hear them kind of echoing that sentiment as well?
Well, I would certainly say, Caitlin, that this idea that exactly what you said, the former president said Saturday, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, is something that resonates with Trump supporters. And the thing that I heard again and again at this rally, and something I've heard at many previous rallies, I've covered many of them, is they see former President Trump as someone who fights for them and someone who will save the country, who will save America. Save America from what? Now you can ask 10 different Trump supporters that question, and they will give you 10 different answers. It may be something to do with putting prayer back in schools is one answer I heard Saturday. It might have something to do with addressing what many of his supporters see as corruption in politics, as Republicans in name only, getting the so-called deep state out of Washington. So they still see the former president doing those things, and they hope that he will continue to, should he win a second term, which of course they want him to.
And Katie, since you've covered so much of this before and you covered the Trump White House, I'm curious, you hear Republicans on Capitol Hill when they're talking about their support for Trump say that they want to focus on his policies, that they like his policies, and that's why they're united around him. This re-election bid, or I should say new election bid, is really seeming to be geared more towards these grievances. I mean, did you hear him talk at all really about his tenure as president, or was it more focused on these investigations?
He certainly did talk about his presidency some. He talked about foreign policy to an extent. He talked about China and Russia actually saying that they are less of a threat to America than American leaders like Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, President Biden. He certainly addressed some of the things he would like to accomplish in a second presidency. He claimed, or a second term, I should say, he claimed that he would end Russia's war in Ukraine after winning the election, but before even taking office. Of course, he had a lot to say on things like schools and gender identity politics, these sorts of things that have become very key and core issues for the Republican base. But yes, he did address his presidency some. I would also note that he more than once brought up the 2020 election, again, calling it rigged, of course, something that has become a repeated theme for him and for his supporters. And he claimed that he won the 2020 election by much more than he won the 2016 election, which was clearly not correct.
Major Garrett and Katie Watson, thank you both very much.